Welcome back to another video. This one's more unique since I'm on a different device and I'm using Python instead of Scratch. So, a few questions to why I'm gone for a while. I was practicing Python and I was doing a few tutorials and this one stuck with me. So, I'm going to show you what I've been working on for the past month. This is the dungeon, and as you can see in a moment, it's a turn-based game where you basically just explore the dungeon and eliminate monsters. You can explore deeper and find more treasures. I'm planning on adding more to this game, but here's a first look. And you can level up. This is an example of, well, one of the features. Leveling up basically means, well, it can make one of your stats stronger. This is a more unique way of doing it. It's for Minecraft. You just it's for, well, enchanting. For this game, it's mainly to boost one of your stats. But you can only boost one only once every level up. It's actually considered a mutation in this game. That's why it says you gain 20 mutation points on the bottom. And so I just advanced my strength stat. So now I can fight better. Basically, I do one more point of damage. And you can pick up items too, by pressing Z. There's Power Elixir, bread, and there's also a bunch more items, but these are the first two I picked up. The Power Elixir heals you. The bread also heals you. They work at the same function, but I just had to tweak them a bit to make them give different amounts of health. There's a bat in the corner, but that's okay, I can just fight it off. Constitution adds to your HP, and it makes your stats a lot, well, only one stat. It only improves your health, and as you can see, it basically works as a potion, except you now have an increased max health. And you can transcend levels. You can go down, and only down, but it gets more difficult as you go on in the levels. Every 2 levels or so, it gets more increasingly difficult, and it adds monsters you can fight, like this, the orc. If you hover your mouse over it, you can see that this is an orc. Agility basically just makes your defense more. It ups your defense, makes you stronger, and you'll take less damage. It's good when fighting the scavenger since it deals 1 point of damage by default. And there's weapons you can equip. You can also drop items by pressing D and select which one you want to drop, and equip items by pressing I and selecting which letter of whatever you want to equip or use. Actually, it's not I, it's actually just 1. You press the number 1. I tweaked what you press in order to make it more convenient for the player. Now, how does this all work? Well, I'm going to go into the basics and mainly the entities. So, first off, there's an actor class, or actor attribute technically. So, the player is an actor, and every single entity is an actor. Well, most entities are actors. Another type of entity is an item. We'll get to that in a second. Either way, the actor has a few traits. The character that it's presented as in the game, which the player's at, the color that the character shows, which is white for the player, just to show as a default. The name is player. And by the way, the color codes use RBG or RGB in order to, well, just define everything. In order to define the color specifically, 255 is how much red there is, 255 is how much green there is, 255 is how much blue there is, and all together that makes the color white because RGB, I think. Anyways, the AI class, well, the player, I look at the work. Well, for the player, the AI class is a hostile enemy, but the player can't move at all. The player can't do automated movements, and which is why I can control the player. But it's kind of a fill-in, and doesn't really actually have a class. It's kind of empty. For the equipment, the player has none by default, and this is just what is the attribute it uses in order to show how it uses equipment and how it works and stuff. This is how it picks up items and like what it bases it off by. Fighter is, well, the player's fight stats. Basically, it has three attributes: HP, base defense, and base power. Base defense is the default amount of defense the player has. The default amount of power the player has is, well, the default power, base power. Inventory has a capacity of, well, 26 because there's 26 characters in the alphabet. The level is basically how much you mutate and evolve in the game. It goes up by a level up base, so that's why player is presented with a query every time you level up, get 65 experience points, or base 65 experience points. Basically 120, basically 65, 130, etc., etc. There is a to-do list, and it isn't going to be shown here, but basically all it shows is what I'm going to add, and a few of those things I'm going to say, which include elves, fairies, dwarves, and maybe a few boss rooms. There are a few other things I didn't quite work out yet, but that's for the most part what I'm gonna add. And that's basically the entire game. There is more to all of this, but I'll get more complex and deep later when after I update, and I'll fill in everything I'm gonna do for the update and what I did for the update. Once I finish the update, then I will make a new video. But that's about it. Goodbye.